Did you know that your creative assets are your greatest lever when it comes to performance marketing? Especially on the paid social side. This is not a well-known fact, but a lot of your creatives are now a form of targeting. So a lot of the algorithms of these ad networks, whether it's Facebook or TikTok or Performance Max, they'll actually start to cluster or group user attributes that are similar with the people that engage with your ads. So what happens is the algorithms will start to cluster or group similar attributes of the people that engage with your ads, whether it's people clicking on your ad or engaging with it or converting from that ad. In line with Meta's proposal of going broad and letting the algorithm do its thing, the algorithms as of 2024 are so sophisticated that the concept of granular targeting is probably going to diminish, if not already. But I think there's still a lot of nuances there, right? You want to make sure that your creatives are strong, and more importantly, that it's hyper-personalized for the ideal customer persona that you're trying to target. So I've been in digital marketing for 8 years, and I've worked with some pretty well-known brands from BMW to Audible and Meta Gaming, and I've been a consultant for a lot of early-stage startups as well. As a performance marketer, you definitely want to be on top of what's happening, especially on the attribution side in terms of best practices. If you're interested in learning about omnichannel news on a weekly basis, just a bit of a tangent here, make sure to follow me on LinkedIn. I post weekly on all the trends happening within digital marketing as a whole, so omnichannel news beyond performance marketing. I remember a time when paid search, we used to spend so much time planning, keyword targeting. Our account structures would have loads of different campaigns, lots of different ad groups. Every ad group would have one single keyword with one match type. We used to call these SKAGs, single keyword ad group, whereas now, with Google's algorithms and them proposing a more modern search approach where you have less campaigns and you consolidate a lot of those keywords, even if they're similar match types, essentially aggregating similar themed keywords or similar category of keywords, letting the algorithm play and find the right users to show your ads to. And then on the paid social side, I remember the time when we used to do a lot of planning audience targeting. What are the interests of the people that we're trying to target, their demographic, their age. Whereas again, now even Meta's recommending that we go broad with the release of Advantage Shopping campaign. That's a bit of a statement there. So in this video, we're going to talk about the main trends that I'm seeing within performance marketing so you can be prepared for 2025 and beyond. Let's go. So the first chapter is reliance on the algorithm. As a performance marketer, you're not going to spend too much time in the middle stage of a performance marketing campaign, right? So there's a pre, middle, and post stage. So pre is the planning phase, the strategy. Middle is actually launching the campaign, optimizing it, and then post is data analysis, and then creating a longer term strategy or iterating on the strategy. As performance marketers, since we rely a lot on the algorithm, we're probably going to focus a lot more on the pre-stage of it. So making sure we have some form of a creative strategy. We also have some sort of a long-term strategy once we've launched the campaign. More experiments are going to happen, not just within your performance marketing campaigns, but the post-click user journey as well. So what happens on your website or your mobile app once someone installs it or signs up, for example. So we're being a bit more full funnel. Second chapter is the power and focus on creatives and creative testing. So this is an interesting one because I'm on LinkedIn pretty much every day. I saw a role called Creative Performance Marketing Lead, and looking into it, simply put, the job spec was someone who does performance marketing but also is able to lead on creative strategy, creative iteration, and creative testing. And that's a new thing. I've never, in my 8 years of doing digital marketing, I've never seen that type of a role where it's a bit of a hybrid of a creative strategist and a performance marketer. And now we're seeing that almost become a one job role as of 2024. And I'm seeing that trend happening because creatives in this day and age is such an important factor, especially on any visual performance marketing channels, which is most of them, to be fair. Being able to pattern interrupt as soon as possible and keep the user's attention is very important. So the days of you creating a very basic templated Canva image or even a basic video, those days are over because now you're going to be competing with brands or agencies that have either an in-house creative team who are in sync with their performance marketers, or you might have an agency who has some sort of a strategy for creative testing. And then on the point about creative testing, all that really means is you have some sort of a plan for how you're going to test the different types of creatives. And I'm not just talking about image versus video versus user-generated content, which we'll get onto in the next chapter. It's going to be more about the messaging of the ad, and more importantly, how it resonates with your ideal customer persona, and then how that creative is going to evolve throughout the funnel of that specific prospect or audience, from upper funnel, where they don't know you, to middle of funnel, where they know you but they haven't bought the product from you, and then finally bottom of funnel, more of a retargeting play or re-engagement play. So we're going to be a lot more strategic with creatives. Next point is doubling down on user-generated content, or UGC. Now, the fact is, especially if you're a performance marketer or media buyer in the space of paid social, you just know that user-generated content always wins, whether it's higher click-through rates, higher conversion rates, or cheaper CACs, customer acquisition cost. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Now, the question is, will there be some form of saturation point in a couple of years? Probably. When your feed starts to just be a bunch of influencers promoting a product, there'll be some sort of burnout and the strategy will likely evolve again. But as of 2024, and very likely up until 2025, in fact, if you don't have the capability to have user-generated content created by your team internally, you can use external agencies, like a platform I've used called Twirl when I was at Circle. And the way it works is essentially you have a brief or a script of some sort of what you want the ad to be, as a guideline for the influencer or the actor that you're going to hire. You create a project within Twirl, and then a bunch of influencers or actors will actually pitch for the project, and you choose the one that resonates with you the best, and then you pay them £300, and then you get your creative assets. Could be 9:16, could be a 1:1 squared ratio video. And there's lots of these UGC agencies, so you shouldn't be stuck on creative content, especially if you have budget to spare. So next chapter is Omnichannel Marketing. This is probably the most important chapter within this video, but one of the points that I hammer in across my videos. In fact, I have a special section about it in the book that I'm writing right now. And what it really means is that the days of marketers being siloed and not understanding what the rest of the business is doing will eventually be over. As a marketer, you want to not necessarily force your way in, but you want to try to find a way where you can understand what's happening on the data side, what's happening with the product, what's happening on the finance, what's happening as a business overall, internally and externally. So if you're wondering what the difference is between multi-channel versus omni-channel, multi-channel just means that you have different marketing channels you create campaigns for, but they're seen as individual silos, whereas omni-channel is that there's more of an integration between the different marketing channels. There's a bit more of a consistency or theme that ties everything together. So for example, if you have a promotional campaign that should be deployed within your email marketing campaign, within your paid ads, should be updated obviously on your website. So there's a sense of consistency for your customers. So the final chapter is more emphasis in understanding attribution, and more importantly, creating narratives out of the data that we have. Attribution is a bit of a bane and a bit of a problem and friction point for a lot of marketers, not just in terms of having inconsistency throughout the different sources of truth you're going to use, whether it's from a performance marketing channel or from your web analytics, even your internal database or CRM. They're all gonna say different versions of the truth, let's call it that. But my approach here is that, listen, as long as you can get 70% closer to the truth and have some sort of a narrative and context and understanding where that conversion has likely come from, that's better than most. And we're doing a lot better than the way it was done back in the days of traditional advertising, where attribution was almost impossible. The way they would attribute is through uplifts of sales within a specific town, or using a code or a voucher. So I'm just going to read off some points just to reassure you on all things attribution. So the first one I've mentioned already is that data is never going to be accurate. The second is focus much more on the narrative instead. So seeing consistent patterns or stories from your historical data to what's happening now, and then understanding how that attribution data will affect the future. And then third is validate your data by continually testing. So for example, if you're seeing that a specific creative is doing well for that specific week, maybe add more budget towards that ad set and seeing if you're still getting better performance as opposed to other creatives, or maybe even better, create a separate ad set just with that creative. So you want to validate the data that you're seeing. And then part of that entails maybe going to your data science team, if you have that resource, and kind of being able to validate if this specific channel or campaign is accurate in terms of numbers of conversions. if you're not using server-side tracking just yet, I would highly encourage you to. It's going to be much more accurate. It's going to be higher quality, and your performance is going to be better long-term because you're training the algorithms to optimize showing your ads to a more relevant user with similar attributes to your data, essentially. You can use a tool like Segment for that, although it's very technical. It's very likely you're going to need a developer or an engineer to help you set that up. But definitely highly recommend using server-side tracking. Some of the platforms call this CAPI or Conversion API. It means the same thing. You're basically acquiring the data and sending it to your own database, and then you having the autonomy and the permission to send that out to the ad networks, as opposed to the way it was previously done where it's pixel-based. If someone goes on your website, for example, that data is actually sent back to Facebook or Google, and they can use that data in however way they want. Server-side tracking, it's a bit more focused on privacy. So closing off the video, like I said, if you want to keep up to date with omnichannel marketing news, I post about it weekly on LinkedIn every Friday. So I'll also leave my LinkedIn below if you're interested. And just some closing points here. One is that change is always going to be happening. What works now is likely not going to work tomorrow, and what isn't working today might work tomorrow. So keep that in mind. You want to be agile and adapting to what's happening, and talk to your other performance marketers or media buyers, see what they're doing, see the tests that they've done. There's lots of people on LinkedIn sharing their insights and their experiments, so definitely do that if you're not already. And the second point is make sure you've got all these trends happening, but great marketing is still focusing on fundamentals. So having the right solution, having the right offer, having the right message shown at the right time and the right place. So make sure you meet those fundamentals before you even think about trends or performance marketing. Start with principles first, fundamentals. And then finally, make sure you always tie down your performance marketing campaign to the overall need of the business. And a bit of a tangent here, but make sure you also focus on brand building. I wasn't going to mention this, but I've seen a lot of startups die throughout my time, and one of the consistent patterns I've seen is, apart from maybe them not having product market fit, is they never focused on brand building. And I can do a separate video on that, but essentially brand building is focusing on capturing the culture and being able to expose the personality of your business. And I think if you want to be a great performance marketer, you want to think about brand. Definitely start to learn what branding is and what makes a great brand. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that's been of some value. Please do subscribe if it has. Until next time, peace, my friend.